She's about to do what she's about to do, and she's about to show what the girls should have did.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you don't know who this be, it's your girl Kyra B coming at you for a new video. So today we're going to be talking about the TV show Bel-Air. It's a reboot of the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And I have watched the first season, which is on Peacock. If anybody who hasn't watched the show yet, it's on Peacock, so you can watch it. Anyway, yeah, we're back into our Let's Talk About It series. So this is where we talk about this certain TV show. So Bel-Air, out the gate, the show is actually pretty good. It's actually one of the few reboots that really hold its own, stand its ground compared to the original series that they're, coming from. The show basically gives you a more dramatic sequence of events. Basically, on the first episode, Will, he gets in trouble because, some gangster dude was kind of played in his face. So he wasn't really feeling it like that. So then his friend, for some reason, got a hold of this gun. And Will made a deal with him. He was like, if I beat you in basketball, you gotta pay me, blah, blah, blah. And leave me alone, this and that. So then Will obviously beat the guy. But then somebody got upset. The guy he beat got upset and threw a basketball to the gangster. So then the gangster who hit me? Who hit me with the basketball? The guy walked off, making a clean exit. And then, Will and his friend Trey, still, being giddy because, they just beat them. So they're, having fun, whatnot, getting their money that they earned. The guy started beating his friend Trey. And they all started jumping him. So Will, he didn't know what to do. They all started jumping him. It was 10 on one person. So then Will found the little gun that his friend, Trey had a hold of. And he shoot the gun in the air to stop them from jumping. So then he point the gun at the gangster. And then the cops arrived. So then everybody started running. And his friend got away, but Will, unfortunately, got caught. So Will went to jail, and they had the mother found out, so the mother had to call the uncle, and the uncle had to pull some strings to get him out of jail, and to do so, because there is a gangster and his crew rampant in the streets of Pennsylvania and West Philadelphia, he had to, escape getting shot in the streets. So he went to LA, to Bel-Air with his aunt and uncle, and that's where he stayed until the situation died down. So at first, Will was like, I don't really like it out here. I can't wait to go home. Why am I here? Because, he's from West Philly, and then you come to this, bougie, LA, and you're just and then you got people like Carlton, who was that's another, I'm going to get into Carlton too. We got people like Carlton, who was, just really wasn't the biggest person to welcome him into the home. And then, Philip, he was okay at first, obviously, but, obviously he warmed up to Will, and, it was that's family, I would do, anything for you, I would treat you like a son, stuff like that. But, in the beginning, Will wasn't really feeling LA, and that's totally normal. So, next thing you know, we got a whole series. We got Lisa. Lisa was actually with Carlton, and then they broke up and whatnot. And then you got Lisa and Will. Carlton was like, you can't be getting with Lisa because, that was his ex. So obviously at this pool party, him and Lisa were getting on. Next thing you know, he pushed Will into a pool. Next thing you know, him and his friends try to get back at Will because Will, got back at Will because Will punched him and his friend out. So next thing you know, when he got to school, they plant drugs on Will. And then Will just got onto the basketball team that he worked so hard to get on. So then they had to put him in detention. Then his aunt and uncle bailed him out of that because it really wasn't him, it was his friend. But Carlton wasn't willing to snitch on the friend. Anyway, so the next thing you know, we have this whole thing. I would say, Will, it all leads up to Philip is running for DA. He has his campaign. He has to make sure his image is crystal clear, peaky, squeaky clean. But then, he has the thing of he got the judge to get Will out of jail, which is kind of go against the law. So therefore, pull that string to do stuff. That's a little something skeleton in his closet that he can't really let that get out because he would get in trouble for it. Then you got Will and Lisa, the little romance going on. Then you got Carlton being a coke addict, and then you got Hillary trying to get a career, trying to do some business. You got Viv trying to do her art career. Then you got Ashley with some type of romance situation. Then you got Jazz, Jazz in Hillary. Then you got Will, who, at first it was the Philadelphia situation, try to lay low until everything in Philadelphia, cools down. And then he found out, he has a father issue, and he wanted to know about his father, but everybody, because the last time he saw his father when he was 4 years old. So then you have all that circling around. Lisa just recently lost her mother, so Lisa going through her situation, all that stuff. So that was basically the plot points of the show. So let's circle around. Obviously, Will and Lisa got together, but then Lisa got upset because Will didn't tell her about, his uncle pulling strings to get him out of jail, and that's the reason why he's in LA. So when she found out from her father, she was like, oh, you lied to me, da-da-da-da. But, he was basically trying to tell you, let you know, yo, I can't really tell you that because basically my uncle, Philip, he basically kind of broke the law to do that. So what sense was it to tell her about that? But anyway, that's what happened. So she was like, oh, he lied. Then, Philip, this whole season, he's basically trying to run for DA. And then because Lisa's father, who was the police chief, was basically because he was oh, I'm going to run for DA too. And then he found out about what Phil did for Will, so he was going to say that into the debate. So before he could say anything, he was like, no, you know what? I'm going to drop out of the race. And he did. So then you got Viv. She used to be an artist, or she was an artist, and then now she's going back into her business. So now she's back into her art game. Then Hillary, she trying to find a career path. She trying to forge a career path on her own, so she being a little hustler, she's a good cook. She was making some dishes, making some stuff. She was being a content creator, all that extra stuff. So, and then she got in a romance with Jazz, Anyway, Jazz, I was like, he was speaking some sense to Will at the end. But before we get into that. And then, where we got? We got, Carlton. Carlton really turned around at the end of the season because, like, in the beginning, he was just annoying. Like, he was really just, oh no. Like, from just siding with his friends and, allowing them to do certain things and then allowing them to basically get Will in trouble with planting drugs on the said friend. He was just, like, so over, I guess, I wouldn't say protective of Lisa, but just like, trying to think of him and Lisa gonna get back together. So he's basically like stopping Will from being with Lisa. But Lisa basically told him like, yeah, that's not happening. Like, no, that's not gonna happen again. So until he finally realized that, and then you got Carlton being a coke addict, so he be sniffing the stuff, and then he suffers from anxiety and stuff like that. Now, that episode when he was singing in church, I was like, oh, he about to sing. And then he only said like two words, and then man had to get off the stage. I was like, bruh, like, come on now. I was like so ready. I was like, you even saw Will like, yeah, he about to sing. Like, oh, let's hear him. And then he just like left the stage because he was having an anxiety thing. So then, who else? But Carlton, he really came up because literally until episode 8, 9, he was whack. And then he really came in clutch. Like, he really was like, you know what? Will is family. And basically realized, Will's family. Like, Will's like a brother to him now. He could be a brother to Will. And stuff like that, and he realized, Will has his back, he has his back. Will came through for him with his addiction and anxiety, and he's like, you know what? You let me handle the burden. I mean, I can also see that the reason why Carlton was acting the way he was acting was because, maybe his father was, I guess, putting more, attention on Will. But I'm like, Carlton was doing what he was doing before Will even came onto the scene, so you can't even really blame it to like, oh, he was putting his attention on Will because he was doing what he was doing before Will even got there. So it's like, okay, yeah, you can be like, yeah. Maybe that's why he was doing the drugs and having all this anxiety, but he was doing all that before Will got there, so therefore you can't really blame it on Will. Or blaming on the father not giving his son attention too much. Maybe it might have been, him running for DA and maybe him being running for office. He didn't put attention on his kids or whatever. I don't know. But I'm like, you can't really blame that on, Will showing, Phil showing Will some attention. Like, oh, like, because I think at the last episode, Ashley was like, something like about somebody might take your crown or, come in place, take your place and take your crown. Something like that. She alluded to. So I was like, what's going on here? Like, what you mean? Like, Will trying to take your crown? Like, Will trying to be next in line type thing? But, yeah, so that's what's going on with Carlton. But he came in clutch last episode, when Will was going through it, he put some money in the back of Will's pocket. He came in clutch. Like, he was really looking out for Will. Lisa, like I said earlier, she annoyed me with that whole, like, literally Carlton basically came to your door and was like, Will's missing, Will's gone. She's like, he's gone, he stood me up. I'm like, bro, did he not just hear what he said? And then until he said, oh, his father came to town. Oh, like, bro, the man said he was missing first. Like, wasn't that like a sign of something was wrong? Like, he came crying to Lisa like, yo, Will's gone, help me find him. And he's like, oh, he stood me up. I'm like, obviously that whole relationship, it was okay in the beginning, the little flirtmance, but then when it became a whole full-on relationship, I was just like, hold up. it's moving a little too fast. But I mean, with this situation that's Will's in, we'll see. Now, Will, was having some father issues. His father was out of his life since he was 4 years old. He later found out, with the help of Jeffrey, that his father went to jail and for some time of years, and that was the reason why he was mostly out of his life. He was basically not told the full story about why his father was gone. So then his father, who was played by Marlon Wayans, he came on the scene, and that whole little argument between him and Will, I was like, oh, I felt that. I was like, oh, snap. I was like, oh, hold up. Like, whoa. I was like, what Will said was harsh. Okay. He said, whoa. He like, don't call me son. I was like, oh. Saying a lot of things. And, I know that man, or anybody, if that was said to anybody, they will really felt that in their soul. Like, man. And then he was upset because I guess his mother didn't tell him the truth, and then his aunt and uncle didn't tell him the truth. So he felt like he was betrayed by them. But the thing is his mother wanted to tell him the truth, but because Phil and Aunt Viv was like, no, I don't think he's ready for all that. So now, at the end, she was like, feel like I could have prevented all this from happening if I just told him. If it would have came from me, it would have felt better. But, it is what it is. So now he's feeling hurt, feeling like the whole world against him. But, Jazz is coming with some, knowledge. He's like, this is your decision. This is your decision. Like, you hold that decision. Do you want to go back to Bel-Air, to your, cousins and aunt and uncle? Or is he going to go to Philly? I mean, I feel like he might go to Philly because he's like, what Jazz was like, when you come, LA try to make people forget what they're come from. But Jazz was like, you don't have to forget what you come from, but you could use this opportunity to, do something, with your life. So, he's speaking some knowledge. He's like, you don't have to forget what you're coming from, but you can obviously use the opportunity to, build your life, build something with your life. And, speaking knowledge, he's like, you got your whole family still wants you. Like, but, he was in his feelings, feeling a little sad. And understandable, like, when you feel like everybody basically lied to you, what it is. Now, Jeffrey was a G. Like, oh, he was a G, okay? Like, that episode when he had somebody, like, tailing Will, and then it was a whole kind of, like, situation that was, like, set up by, Phil. I was like, oh, snap. So Jeffrey got paid somebody to handle some situation. I was like, oh, snap. And then he kind of like a PI man, something like that, because the way he be getting some information, like, now, I kind of felt for him because Philip was like, you work for me. You work for me. I pay you. Like, you listen to what I say. So I can understand why he was like, you know what? I thought we were family. But you waving that you work for me in my face. You know what I'm saying? So I understand why. Because I think he was about to resign first. But then Will stopped him with the, can you do me a favor situation. And then, obviously, he was like, Fred was a good man, or is a good man, like, you shouldn't really stoop so low in the debate. So I understand, but Fred was willing to stoop low and willing to expose Phil about the judge situation and getting Will out of jail. So I'm like, I mean, you had a point. He was like, but I'm like, I guess Fred, didn't realize, or I guess he forgot his morals because he was about to drag Phil down with that whole, he got some strings to get the judge to get Will out of jail. So I'm like, I understand what Jeffrey was saying, but, if it wasn't for Phil getting out of the race, stuff would have went left. But yeah, this show was a good show. Can't wait to see what happens in season 2. Definitely, really end on a cliffhanger, because basically left with, Will making a decision. Will has what he wants to do next with his life. So does he want to still continue doing what he's doing in Bel-Air, or is he going to make a trip back to West Philly to see what's happening, all that jazz. But yeah, the show was a really good show. I really enjoyed it. I kind of really feel bad with the whole Trey and Will situation, because to be honest, Will wouldn't even have gotten arrested if he didn't stick up for Trey, because Will could have really left the scene and let his friend get jumped, okay? He could have left the scene and let his friend get jumped, okay? But, he tried to take matters in his own hands, and, things went left. So, but, and then I guess because he was, like, putting the idea of, him staying in Bel-Air, oh, you abandoned me, blah, 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 and West Philly, blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, the only reason he's there is because of him. He was like, you the one who brought the gun. Like, if he didn't have the gun, maybe he would have took matters in his own hands and did something else. I don't know. But I'm just like, the fact that their whole friendship basically fell out is just really sad, because I know that hurt. But I mean, well, we gotta see what's gonna happen next, okay? But yeah, if you guys want to watch Bel-Air, it's on Peacock. They're actually renewed for season 2, so hopefully we get to see that, whenever it comes out. And yeah. Anyway, guys, if you like the video, comment down below. Let me know your thoughts, comments, concerns. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, subscribe. Anyway, thank you guys for watching this video. Peace.